Okay, I kind of did this as a joke to begin with because I've got that 9400F in there. It's an i5, 6 cores, 6 threads. And I matched it with a 9060 XT thinking, okay, we'll just throw everything, we'll throw a little bit higher end, not a higher end, but a more recent GPU, and we'll just let it have fun and see if it can keep up. Well, quite honestly, it is keeping up. And I did this as a joke, but it's keeping up pretty darn well. Now this happens to be on 1440 medium, but we were seeing similar numbers with high and with highest setting. It's doing great, and this is actually, believe it or not, a pretty good match, and I would not have thought that. It makes me really excited to see what maybe an 87 or a 9700 would do, or maybe even a 9900. But I thought this was going to be a little bit funny, and it turns out this is actually, these aren't too bad. They play well together. They really, really do play well together. Yeah, as you can see, there's nothing fancy on the settings here, but I mean, we're getting very, very solid results. And the entire time, the CPU and the GPU have kept up with each other, temperature-wise, percentage-wise. It's been pretty decent. So as I go through these a little bit more, I'll give some more feedback. But what I thought was going to be a little bit of a joke here with this 9060 XT, I thought it was just going to run all over and we'd have that 9400F as a total bottleneck. But these 6 cores are handling themselves pretty well. Now we'll see how it does as we get into some of the more demanding titles. We still got Cyberpunk to go and things like Black Ops and all that. So we'll see. But at least in an older game, I mean, I can't complain so far.
So I really did kind of start this as a joke. I figured, all right, the 9400F, let's just throw something I know is not going to bottleneck it. That I know that it will give the CPU full range, that the GPU is not going to be bottlenecked at all, and just let it run. And yeah, I'm not going to say that backfired in my face, but I am going to say these two played fairly well together. Now we will see as we go through there, and I'll go ahead and show you Shadow of the Tomb Raider because we were already kind of talking about that. It kind of did level off and it stuck. I believe it was like 135 to 140 frames per second. And whether it was 1080p or 1440p, it got to that edge. And we're going to see that a little bit of a common theme here. Because when we went to Borderlands 3, very much the same thing. In the 170 range is where it kind of got where we're not going to go any further than that. Now, it ran smooth. It ran great. It didn't look like it was trying to stop and stutter or anything like that at any point. And it be very, very similar percentages between the CPU and GPU in a lot of cases. But there was a few things. One of the things that I did notice in Shadow of the Tomb Raider is that we had some images kind of popping in, especially in the last scene where the waterfall. I tried to get it on camera, and I don't think I did a very good job of it. But at one part, it did. It just wasn't, the CPU wasn't giving the GPU information quick enough for the GPU to render. And that was totally on the processor. So, and in Borderlands 3, we did have a little bit, I wouldn't say, I think it went overall pretty smooth. I don't remember any major hitches or any major problems. But when I got to the end of it, I thought, oh, okay, this is kind of weird that it's the 1080p is not any better than 1440p. And then, both those brain cells in my head kind of clicked together and thought, oh, well, it's going to max out about there. Cyberpunk was pretty much the same thing. We got to about 124 frames per second, and it said, no, I'm good. I don't need to do any more. We're just fine. We're not going to go any further, and you can't make me. And then we did CS2, and I was very pleased to see that it didn't look like there was any kind of limitations getting well over 200 frames per second in both of these. It went very, very smoothly, very, very easily. And yeah, it looked like it had plenty of room to go if I had done that. So this I believe would be a great CPU for just your casual gaming and to some extent. Now we'll get to this a little bit later in a few minutes because I so far have tested these on just the defaults. And in the case of like Cyberpunk, the default is FSR 2.1. And in Borderlands and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it might have a little bit of FSR, but usually it's just the basic stuff and it's no big deal or it's no groundbreaking thing. But we're going to talk about something in a minute that was a little bit surprising. Black Myth Wukong was a little bit of a surprise in the bunch. I did not expect it to perform as well as it did. I just left it on standard settings and it destroyed it. I mean, it got over 150 frames per second in both. I think it was 151 and 156 or something. I don't have the chart in front of me, but it did very, very well. And I was very surprised. I was not expecting it, even though it's a well optimized game. And I usually, a good combination will score pretty well in this. I really wasn't expecting that kind of result. And maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. Now we're going to get to our little bit of an issue here, because when I started up Marvel Rivals, I went ahead, ran it like normal. My default settings that I always use on it are just, they're 1440p high, 1080p high, and I will use whatever frame gen was locked in. Now, up till a few updates ago, or this last update, it was 3.1. Not a problem at all. It seemed to run fairly smooth. This time, it defaulted me to FSR 4.1, and it put me to medium. And I did notice a couple of things were off, and I believe I've got some of the graphs here, and I'll go ahead and share these as we go a little bit. But with FSR 4.1, I noticed in 1440 and in 1080p both, we had some serious dropouts and some serious problems. Now, the frame rate was good. The frame rate was fairly high, but the average and the lows, I mean, especially for 1440p high or 1440p medium at this point, the 1% low, I mean, it bottomed out at like 1 frame per second. So it made a really, really big dent in the performance. So when I noticed that it was on 4.1, I thought, what, 4.1? And then I realized also that it was on medium. I thought, well, I shouldn't be getting results like that. So I thought, okay, what about 3.1? If I go back to FSR 3, what kind of results am I getting there? Not to be satisfied with medium settings, I went ahead and put FSR 3 with high settings. Much smoother, much better. So I don't believe some games, Marvel Rivals, I believe is on Unreal Engine 5. I don't think this title is quite optimized yet for FSR 4. I think FSR 3.1 is fine with this, and it ran much, much better on high with FSR 3 than it did medium with FSR 4. Now, I don't think my charts reflect this very well. I should put on there that it's medium high, but the difference between FSR 3 and FSR 4, FSR 4 stuttered horribly because it kept getting those dropouts. It was bad dropouts. And FSR 3 was very, very smooth. So playing this game in the future or doing these benchmarks in the future, I think I'm going to stick with FSR 3 while I do some of these until we know that FSR 4 is, and it's supposed to be sound. It's supposed to be updated in great shape and working, but there are obviously some glitches still. So that was the thing with Marvel Rivals. Not to be outdone, Black Ops 7 also has the same options that I can do FSR 3.1 or 4. So when I'm looking at the difference in here, now the difference in these wasn't as much. This typically what I've heard is that the FSR 4 looks better, but it will cost you a little bit in performance. That kind of reflected here. That did. Both of these were run on their ultra setting high, but they label it as ultra because you can have, I guess it's regular or and then ultra and then extreme or whatever the deal is. But their ultra setting is basically 1080p or 1440p high. So that's what I run it at. I always try to run something on 1080p or 1440 high and then give the results there. It ran fine. I didn't have any kind of issues, any kind of problems. Now, I take that back. On the first run, before I let the shaders load in, I had some issues. Past that, once I gave it a few minutes to let the shaders pop in, then everything was fine. I should have remembered that before when I was testing the 3 budget cards with the 6400, because one of the things I thought about there, because for those of you who might have seen the last video, I'll put it up here. For those of you that might have seen that video on the budget GPUs, the 6400 has 4 gig of video memory, and it's a hard stop. Yeah, because Black Ops wanted more. The 6400 did not have more, so we got a whopping 6 frames per second in 1440p. Did much better in 1080p. It had more memory. It was allowed, but it was a very, very hard stop at 1440p. So I learned my lesson there about the shaders. I went ahead and applied that this time when I thought, oh, something's not working right. And so after that, got some great results. Whether it's FSR 3 or 4, it worked out very, very well. So yeah, I take your pick, take your poison. I do think some games are not optimized as well for FSR 4 yet. And so FSR 3 for me is a great option, especially when I'm testing. But until I feel comfortable with every game, well, maybe, I don't know. You guys leave in the comments. Let me know which one you want me to test. And because, like I said, Cyberpunk, I'm still testing on 2.1 because it's the default. I will change and I will make them all FSR 3, or I'll try to make them all FSR 4, the latest version or whatever. I'll let you guys tell me. How's that? That's the way we're going to solve that. But anyway, this kind of started out as a joke. I thought, all right, we're going to pair this 9400F with a 9060 XT. It's an 8 gig, but we're only doing 1080p and 1440p. So I thought I would test it with this sort of as a little bit of a joke, thinking, okay, keep up if you can. And they actually got along fine and seemed to like each other just fine. So who knew? I didn't, but evidently that RX 9060 is just a good all-around card. So if you've got a power supply with an 8-pin connector, go for it. Yeah, I think it does really, really well. And this combination did really well. 6-core, 6-thread. It doesn't have the multi-threading, but we will eventually try a CPU that does. I'm still trying to get all that squared away. Anyway, this combination worked out pretty well, and I'm very, very happy with it. So what's next for this Z390? I don't know. I might make a gaming rig out of it. I might end up selling it. I doubt I'll sell it. I want to do some more testing with it, but I'm very, very happy. I do collect. I don't want to say collect, but I do have at least. I'm trying to make sure that I've got at least one setup or one platform of AMD and Intel for the last couple of generations where I can go back and at least do some testing with different hardware when things come out or I'm doing things. So I will probably keep this, even if it's not an active part of whatever I'm doing, it will be nearby so I can do some testing when a new video card comes out, RX 9050 or something of that nature. So I definitely want to have it available. And I'm much happier with this setup than I would have thought. I still do want to test an 8700 or 9700. We'll get that squared away. But yeah, this was a pleasant surprise, and it was kind of fun figuring it out. But that's all I got. I wanted to make sure that, first of all, this was not in my head that this Z390, I fixed it. I got it to work with the Celeron. It didn't work with the next CPU that came in, but it did work with that 9400F, and it works splendidly. That setup works really, really well, and it's ready to go in a case and start to be tested and maybe a build. So that's what we'll do. Eventually, like I said, it'll probably be a different processor on that build, but hey, we know we got plenty of room for it. I liked it. So if you got anything out of the video, go ahead and throw a like on the video if you don't mind. If you're not already subscribed, please do. That'd be wonderful. Don't forget to visit the socials. I will probably try to write something up about this on the website, on my blog. Links down in the description as well. But I'm trying to get a little bit more into that. I'm not going to brag about it or anything, but it's there, and I'm trying to effectively use my website a little bit better. So if you got something working and something, I'm not going to open a store on my website, but I do kind of want to do something. So I don't know, maybe. But anyway, if you don't do any of that stuff, if you don't like or subscribe or go hit the other socials or anything, please just do me one favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Be kind. Smile, wave, say hi, something like that. It doesn't cost anything to be nice. You might find out it makes your day or makes somebody else's day. And it might make it worth it, you know. Anyway, that is all I have for this time. I do have some other stuff going on, including some cable management stuff going on over there, and I still have to work with this NAS. So who knows? Anyway, a lot of stuff, and it's only August. Already August? Whew, it's August. Anyway, that is all I have for this time. So until next time when I get myself into something I got no business getting into, I'll see you later.